Joining me in the studio is the author of the Senate bills, Senator Bill Ingebrigtsen. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
As many as 10 states are currently in the process of drafting legislation to regulate public dissent. You've authored 2 bills in the Senate having to do with penalties for public protests and cost recovery of such demonstrations. What is the rationale?
Well, regulating public dissent, I don't think that's a real accurate description of what's going on. Not any of us, the 67 senators, at least that I work with here in the Minnesota Senate, want to squelch any First Amendment rights at all. But there comes a time during these public demonstrations that public are able to get their message out, but that goes over the top when public safety, the potential of public safety gets interfered with, or the movement of people having to go to and from commerce, especially on I-94 when we've had a couple of those incidents. I think then is when they actually go over the top. And they actually, quite frankly, I think a lot of people think they lose their messaging. And furthermore, they also cost lots of tax dollars. And folks in the state of Minnesota have conveyed to me, why should I, in Alexandria, Fergus Falls, Perham, anywhere in the state of Minnesota, have to pay tax dollars? And should we have to pay tax dollars for any of that type of activity when it goes over the top like that?
Well, some say this legislation is a reaction to the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter shut down the Mall of America during 2015 holiday season. They've stopped light rail, blocked access to freeways, as you mentioned, and airports. For those that were arrested and charged, judges dropped or reduced most charges. So shouldn't the decisions better be left to police and judges on a case-by-case basis rather than coming through the legislature to craft a law to create penalties?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that law enforcement should have the opportunity to have that kind of discretion. A judge, however, does have the discretion. However, the judge also has statutes that have to be dealt with that are passed by the legislature, and it's the legislature's responsibility to give the judge the tools to work with. Law enforcement, quite frankly, gets their marching orders from the legislature, so they really don't have a whole lot to say about this other than the fact that they have to respond. And in some cases, most recently here in Minnesota, yes, they do get very involved. They get injured. That's really unfortunate. So if a judge decides to reduce the case, that's certainly something he or she has to deal with, but we think the sanctions should be a little bit tougher.
Well, and let's just be clear, the one bill would increase penalties for, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, that brings it from a misdemeanor to a gross misdemeanor, okay, which is a fine up to $1,000, or a lot stiffer fine than a misdemeanor. So the judge would then have the opportunity to, if they so choose, to drop it from a gross misdemeanor down to a misdemeanor. Right now it sounds like they're dropping it from a misdemeanor to a petty misdemeanor, which is a very, very trivial type crime in our whole judicial system.
Those who advocate for change say that the only way to get the public's attention is to interrupt their daily routines. Representative John Lish was quoted by CNN as saying, "Inconvenience is the heart of protest. If you're being inconvenienced, the likelihood of you listening is drastically lower." So it's remarkable that all these unarmed young black men were being shot at all over the nation and no one cared until you had to take a detour to get to the mall. Is this a persuasive argument?
Unfortunately, that does actually happen. I mean, obviously, the more I guess you could call it, the louder the protest, the more people are going to start listening. There's no question about that. But Black Lives Matter really are really not part of this. To me, all lives matter, and I wouldn't want to have a freeway blocked or a law enforcement or a medical person was actually dealing with somebody from Black Lives Matter that might be injured or a heart attack, or one of their fathers, mothers, or daughters that might need medical attention. And what do? They run up against a roadblock, an actual roadblock on I-94, where they have to somehow figure out to get turned around and get to their emergency, to the destination. And if somebody were to become injured more so, or actually die, heaven forbid, from something like this, there's no question. I think the general public thinks the group has now gotten over the top, and it has to be dealt with a little more harshly. And I don't think a gross misdemeanor violation is on the line.
And to be clear, your bill is just saying major trunk highways. It's not saying, say, Summit Avenue or some other street. People can still protest there. They just can't protest on major thoroughfares.
That's right. And good organized protests. A lot of times your folks will get permits even from cities that say we're going to be here on such and such a day. If the media wants to, pick up on that, I guess it's their right to do that. And that's good. We shouldn't stifle that. We just can't do that in our country. The First Amendment is near and dear to everybody and should always be treated with the utmost respect. But when it goes over the top, when people become injured, could potentially become injured, and in the case of St. Paul, the cost has been nearly $500,000 to the city of St. Paul. Then I think along with most Minnesotans, there has to be something done.
Well, Governor Dayton was asked about this last week. He recalled his own actions during an anti-Vietnam protest. He recalled Nixon's efforts to quash public dissent, both illegal and legal at the time. In terms of expenses to the public, he said the public already pays expenses for all kinds of activities. Sure. And like you, he draws a line with airports and interstate highways. So there's some common ground, but your other bill, can you talk about the other one? It doesn't have a hearing soon, but...
It's recovering expenses?
Yes, recovering expenses.
Well, yes, if in fact these activities go on as have gone on in the most recent times here, where you actually stop commerce or you stop emergency services on a freeway or major thoroughfare in the state of Minnesota, or you actually block people from public transit, then the people that are called out, whether they're off-duty officers, off-duty deputies, off-duty fire departments, depending upon who they are, that becomes a public cost. And the general public that I represent, and I like to think I represent some common thinking folks, think, those dollars should be recovered. They really should. They shouldn't have to pay for that. And unfortunately, sometimes we end up with cars that are vandalized, that are set on fire. If this is what's going on, quite frankly, the people need to know that they're really losing their voice, and that's really unfortunate.
Senator Ingebrigtsen, we have to stop there, but thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.